Welcome to the March 21st, 2016 meeting of the Gaston County Board of Education. I'm Kenny Lutz, the chairman of the board, and to my left is Mr. Ramsey, vice chair at large. Also, starting from my left, we have Dot Cherry, Kevin Collier, Dot Guthrie, Catherine Bailey Roberts, Mark Upchurch, Chris Howe, and Lee Dedman. I would like to welcome everyone here tonight. At this time, I would like to recognize Mr. Booker for our invocation.
Thank you. Dear Father, we thank you for being among us. We thank you for walking with us and guiding us. We ask as we meet that you will guide us in our discussion, give us discernment and knowledge to do the work in the benefit of the 32,000 students entrusted to this Board of Education. We thank you for watching over us and for all the many blessings in our lives. Amen. Amen. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I would like to invite Grace Russell forward to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Grace is a senior at South Point High School.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our next order of business will be to adopt the agenda. This will be an action item, and I will need this in the form of a motion. Ms. Cherry has made the motion. Do I have a second? Ms. Guthrie has seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? And it is unanimous. Thank you very much. Mr. Booker, good news.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We have several good news items. And I want to start with one that shows great community partnership. We have a number of folks with us here tonight from the Gastonia East Rotary Club, better known as the Monday Rotary. And they have supported our Robo-Gaston event for a number of years now. And that's the event many of you are familiar with, where we showcase all the work that has gone on with our robotics competition between the elementary and middle schools. And so after they've learned all year about math, science, and engineering, they come and put on a performance with their robots, but also they have to go through showing team building skills and other elements that are taught to them. And the East Gaston Rotary has supported us not only with their time. This year, for example, 12 members served as judges, but they have stepped up and presented us money, which is very critical to that program. And so we wanted to recognize tonight, I believe we have with us Barry Wright, Carl McKinnon, John P., and I think I saw Mike Stanforth come in. If they'll come in, and I think the one that's really special, and we got to be careful with the microphone, is Bill Moore, because he played host for us. If you all will come forward, Bill actually served as the MC of the award ceremony, and I can tell you, being there a number of years, it was one of the best that we've ever had. And he said, if you need the ham, I got it.
That's exactly right. I was born last year.
But we wanted to take a moment and thank you all for what you have done to make this program possible. And Ms. Guthrie has a presentation for you all on behalf of the board.
Anytime there's money involved, I am happy to.
It was $20,000 this year, Ms. Guthrie.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. And on behalf, the certificate reads, a certificate of recognition presented to Gastonia East Rotary Club, outstanding contribution to Gaston County Schools, dated March 21st, 2016, signed by our board chair, Kenny Lutz, and Superintendent Booker. And on behalf of the board, I would like to present you, sir, with this beautiful certificate
Thank
to
you.
let you know how much we appreciate your support.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
We'd like to thank the board, and we had some help with this. Caramont did a community health challenge. We have a lot of members, about 102 at this present count. So it wasn't just us, but we appreciate the excellent work that the Gaston County Schools have done to help these young children, well, these young students come into an appreciation for the science, technology, the math, and with the group building exercises and other things, they have to think outside the box. So with that, it's a wonderful program. You all are doing a great job, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll stand here, like maybe I'll get some money.
At least it makes us look official.
And one more. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Thanks for all that. Everything that you do.
Thank you very much.
Mount Holly Rotary Club.
Thank you very much. We appreciate all that. Thank you.
It's been very successful.
Fellow Rotary from Mount Holly, thank you guys. We always look up to you. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good job.
Thank you.
Oh, the diamond. That's good. I've got one, but doesn't have a diamond in it.
Members of the board, it wasn't by accident that we had Grace come up and say the pledge tonight. I want to invite her back. She has earned many awards and honors as a student at South Point High School, but tonight we want to focus on a leadership position she has taken with the state. She is one of 115 districts, over 1 million students. She's one of 2 serving the North Carolina Board of Education as a student advisor. You may recall she was appointed to this position by the governor last spring. Her roles include attending the monthly board meetings and offering perspective as a student, but she also is charged with 2 projects that she is to do. She gave her first one in January, and she just recently presented it to our curriculum committee related to academic integrity and honor codes. She also has spoken with the Lieutenant Governor, and we got great feedback on what an excellent representative she was of our school system. So Gary, Gary, forward. Someone stand up. Gary, I'm sure you're proud and you'd like to see her stay another year for all the leadership she's done. But what we're going to do is invite Grace to take a moment and talk about your experience with the State Board, if you don't mind. You can use the microphone over there.
Thank you so much for having me. Serving on the school board has definitely been a great opportunity and a learning experience. My first day I was really shy, and I usually consider myself a pretty shy person, but I was told by the members of the board that I was the quickest student to speak up. So I've definitely been able to contribute to many conversations, including those about textbook funding, online classes, and most recently teacher evaluations, which I'm sure you all have heard about a lot too. Kind of my most intimidating and probably most impactful moment so far has been my project about academic integrity and honor codes, where I kind of started at a school level and showed how many different ways there are to kind of help bring integrity into the culture of a school and really help students be a part of, whether it's creating their own honor code or incorporating conversations into their curriculum. And I really found that everyone was really receptive to the presentation, so that was really exciting for me. The project that I'm working on in the spring is kind of in the works. I'm collaborating with the other student advisor, and we are, as well as the current State Teacher of the Year and last year's State Teacher of the Year, and we're kind of talking about what kind of things can be done to try to make teacher evaluation something that everyone's in favor of, not something that's kind of being argued about as it currently is. So kind of working on that, and hopefully we'll be able to speak to some of you about that at a later time. I think that one of the things I've most learned about is that, you know, the student voice is a really important part of making policy for education. And it's something that, you know, Gaston County has done a great job of. We have the Superintendent's Advisory Council, and I've been able to go to the state school board and be a representative of our county, and I definitely think that there are more opportunities for our students here, whether it's having rotating councils that meet with principals, or having just a way for students to give their feedback on what's going on in the classroom, because that's where we are every day, and sometimes policymakers don't really have the opportunity to be in the classroom all the time, even though they get to come and visit, and we always love having, you know, our evaluators come and sit on in a class, but it's definitely something that, a resource that could be tapped more. So I think that that's been kind of the biggest thing for me, and something that the board could really make a difference on and help our county to improve on. So thank you.
Thank you for being here tonight, Grace.
Great job.
Grace, thank you again for being here. Gary, appreciate you being here to support her. Members of the board, it doesn't stop there. We have two other really remarkable young ladies here with us tonight. Each year, the Prudential Spirit of Community Awards honor young people across the United States who've made a difference by serving their community. This year, we have not one, but two of our students named among the top youth volunteers in all of North Carolina. First, Allison Costner of Bessemer City High School. And secondly, Kerrigan McCurry. So you all came up together. I got no choice here. Allison. Hello, Allison. Well, Allison, you see why Mr. Montgomery's back there beaming. She is a student at Bessemer City High School, and she is one of 7 finalists in the state in the Spirit of Community Awards. It's easy to see why she was chosen for this award. She has completed more than 1,000 hours of volunteer work with more than a dozen local businesses and organizations. But I want you to hear about one of those. When Allison was 10 years old, she began volunteering at the Gaston Manor nursing home here in Gastonia. She was there visiting her great-grandmother, and she noticed that many residents were lonely. So she decided to do something about it. She organized special events at local nursing homes to encourage family members to visit with residents. She also coordinated campaigns at her church and local elementary schools to make and deliver crafts and greeting cards to the residents. Allison also graduated early from Bessemer City High School, and all of the staff and faculty are very proud of her accomplishments. We look forward to seeing what you'll do with the future, Allison. Let's recognize Allison, please. Well, not to be undone, we have a senior from Hunter Huss High School, Kerrigan McCurry. She was selected for her work with the Jason Foundation. Are any of you familiar with the Jason Foundation? Let me say that it is an excellent organization that has a mission of educating people about youth suicide prevention. Unfortunately for Kerrigan, her drive and interest to do this started with a tragedy. 3 years ago, her best friend committed suicide. As she struggled to understand why it happened and to deal with her own pain, she found out about the Jason Foundation, which believes that educating teens about suicide is the first step to prevention. She has organized a support group at her high school. She has also started visiting local and middle schools to speak with staff and students about preventing youth suicide and how to recognize the warning signs. But she hasn't done it just there. She's raised money for the Jason Foundation with country music stars Charlie Daniels and Rascal Flatts, and she's hoping to expand the organization's outreach throughout the state. As the North Carolina winner in the Prudential Awards, Kerrigan will travel to Washington, D.C. in early May, where she will compete against honorees from each state. 10 of these students will be named America's top youth volunteers. She is joined tonight by Michael Dermott, her assistant principal, and we all want to express our sense of appreciation for your accomplishment.
The thing that amazed me about these two young women, I'm sure y'all have already read in the Gazette because I think it was in the paper a couple of weeks ago, is that neither one of these projects were school related. So they didn't have to do it to earn the things to graduate. It was truly from the heart that they started doing these projects, and that's just amazing. But it turned into getting other people involved at school. That's dedication, and that's just amazing to me. So on behalf of the board, we have some certificates for you, and it's for outstanding achievement, the Prudential Spirit of Community Awards, which I've never even heard of the Prudential Spirit of Community Awards, but I have now, and I hope that we will be seeing this award come to Gaston County often and for a long period going forward. So I have one for Kerrigan, and I have one for Allison. It's signed by our chairman of the board, Kenny Lutz, and by our superintendent, Jeff Booker. And Kerrigan, we can't wait to have you come back being the national winner. I'll give y'all these from us, let y'all shake hands, then we'll get pictures with your principals, and your parents, I think, are all here, and you don't want one with me.
I might as well put you in there.
Okay. Are you going in? We'll have old and old with young and pretty. I'm proud of y'all.
And one more.
And I know the principals, they don't get their pictures made once. Let's get one with them, and then we'll get your parents.
Yes.
I know they want to
Join us. We'll do that.
All right, parents, come on, and I'll get out of this one. So y'all can have one with your parents. Separate.
Yes, you did.
Y'all get one separate with your parents, so you'll have one.
Okay.
We'll do separate pictures. Okay. You just slide us a little bit. Right, there you go. And one more. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Oh gosh.
And one more. Thank you.
Okay, now you have to shake our hands.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hopefully.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Members of the board, we've started with a great community organization, and I want to end our good news tonight by recognizing an organization that you all know, but you probably don't really know. and that is the Gaston County Education Foundation. For over 20 years, that organization has been supporting schools, and it is approaching raising over $900,000 in support of our school system. $900,000. If we started a list of everything that they do for us, we'd be here for a long while. But I do want to highlight a couple things. Most of you are familiar with the Smarter Than a Fifth Grade program. The money raised from that event supports the Ron L. Inslee grants. That's made a transition. It used to be called mini grants, but when you start giving people $2,000, $2,500, it's no longer a mini grant, it's a real grant. And we've seen impacts in our classroom from these grants. They try to each year give $50,000 towards those grants alone. So look forward to that coming later this spring. You'll see a lot of excited educators as they're recognized with grants. So tonight we're just grateful to bring them forward and recognize them. And they have a number of folks with them. And I'm going to call on Jenny Stoltz to come forward and introduce those folks and just share some of the good news going on.
I'm Jenny Stoltz. The Gaston County Education Foundation was formed in 1992. It was formed specifically to fund initiatives within our classrooms that were not covered by the school budget. So we've had a wonderful challenge in raising money to make that happen. I've been with the foundation since 1998 and have had the opportunity to work with a wonderful group of board members that have come and gone, some of whom have been long-serving board members that are no longer on the board but came here tonight to celebrate. And so some of the other things that we've done is we've funded the keynote speakers at the Teaching Learning Conference every year for the teachers. So we fund that as well. We have funded the Pride in Gaston program where third graders travel around the county and learn about the county, and we fund that as well. So there are a lot of things that have been important to us. So I'd like for our board members that are here to come forward because they are really the people who really make it happen and the ones who have been the real success. And the great success we have is that we have been named the Community Leadership Award winners for Gaston Together, and we will receive that award on April the 7th. And so it's because of this board, this hardworking board. So Natalie Tyndall, Susan Lewis, who's a former member of our board, Ann Davis, Brenda Ratchford, who I'm sure none of you know, John Boyer, our chair, Artie Newcomb, our treasurer, our newest member, Ashley Smith. These are some of our wonderful board members, so please help me thank them for the work that they do.
Well, I can't top that, except anytime that we ask, you always answer. And we all know that our budgets are always short, and we sure couldn't do what we do without y'all. So please keep doing what you're doing, and thank you. That's all we can say is thank you. We have a very small token of our appreciation to the foundation for outstanding contributions to Gaston County Schools, and this is from all of us to all of you. So
we're really proud because last week we actually moved into an office, so we have a place to put it.
Oh, good. Oh,
it won't be in our living room.
Good. So I'm going to present this to you and let you just get a picture of them. I do not need to.
You'll give it to our chair. He's
Here,
the
chair.
boss.
Here, chair. And you hold it proudly.
So I could just step up just a little bit and squeeze in. There you go.
The short people in front.
And one more. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll email you the picture. I'll email you the picture.
Do we shake hands?
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
And we get to do it too?
Mr. Chairman, that concludes the good news for tonight.
Well, thank you, Mr. Booker. That's great to have all that good news at one time, and it's great to have all the young people come up. It's great to see the leaders of our community be recognized also. Our next item will be public expression. I would like to go over a few of the rules before I start public expression. We have a few people signed up tonight. Citizens wishing to speak, citizens wishing to make a comment and who have completed a request to speak form will be recognized by the chair and then requested to step up to the microphone for their comments. Citizens will state their name, their address for the record. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes when there are 2 or more speakers for one issue. The members of the board do not comment on public expression, and public expression does not allow for comments on confidential or personal matters. The chair shall rule on all points of order during the public expression. At this time, I would like to start this segment of our meeting, the public expression, and call our first person to speak would be Tony Davis. All right, I'm going to move along to the next person since Mr. Davis doesn't seem to be here. Nate Snyder.
Good evening, board members. Yes. Okay. My name is Nathan Snyder, and I am here on behalf of Hunter Huss High School. I am the student body president of my school, and I am speaking on behalf of not myself, for this issue doesn't truly affect me, but I'm speaking on behalf of all of the students that I represent. The International Baccalaureate Diploma Program is designed to create students who are well-rounded and prepared for life after high school, typically for a university setting. The purpose of the IB Diploma Program is, shockingly, not necessarily to receive the diploma. At the end of the day, the diploma is a piece of paper that means nothing more than a receipt or an invoice. It's a record of a student's work. The purpose of the program is to set students apart from the typical AP or honor student and help them gain admission and scholarships to premier universities both in North Carolina and outside of it. This mission has been achieved many times over. Last year alone, we received over $1.6 million in scholarships, which is very impressive for a school of our size. And that's only what students reported. In this school year, we've already had a few students get accepted to UNC Chapel Hill, some get accepted to NC State. I've been accepted to Emory University on a full-ride scholarship, and a colleague of mine who was unable to make it tonight was accepted to the University of Virginia on a full scholarship. My question, therefore, is this. If this program is producing such results, why would the board choose to stop defending it after only truly defending it for 1 year? In April 2014, the board unanimously decided to allow Hunter Huss to operate on a 7-period day, which is a requirement of IB. Finally, we're given the opportunity to do IB properly on the timetable that it's meant to be done on. And we took advantage of this opportunity. The 14-15 school year was by far our most successful year. We had 4 students receive the full diploma, and many received certificates for their individual IB classes, which equate to college credit when they get to university. After this triumphant year, the board announced halfway through this following school year that the IB would be rescinded without giving us any warning that the issue was ever being presented. The main reason cited for the removal is budget issues, saying that the money is better spent elsewhere. $270,000, which is the amount stated by Mr. Todd Hagens in the packets you've been given on page 1, it would be better spent on AP training and the career and technical education. And this is true. It would be better spent there if this is the amount that the school board had to spend. Unfortunately, according to the budget that you have a copy of on page 3, the IB program only costs $76,050 to operate. This is enough for maybe a new teacher and training for 3 classes. The rest of the $200,000 comes from teacher salaries that you would have to pay anyway because, according to the Q&A on page 2, you say that the teachers will have the opportunity to teach other academic-focused courses. And this document also says that this summer, teachers will participate in professional development, including ones that focus on CTE and AP. Training for these programs is not free and will cost the county, I'm sorry? Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Our next person to speak, yes,
I'd like to know
Mr.
how much more time you had to finish out your presentation. I think if a student that's a student body president wants to come up and give to that, I'd like this board to discuss whether we're going to give him 2 more minutes. If it's 2 more minutes, or if he's got 20, then we might need to discuss that later. But
Can you finish up in a couple more minutes?
I can.
Okay, yeah, we'll go ahead and give you a couple more minutes if you'd like to finish up.
So, going back to the $10,000 approximately that it would take to train teachers for AP, this $10,000 could be spent on a compromise in which everyone would win. The International Baccalaureate Organization offers a program that will benefit everyone involved, the IB career-related program. You can find more information about this on pages 4 through 7 of your packet. This program is designed to help students to be successful either in a university setting or in their field immediately following high school. It couples IB coursework with the CTE coursework much in the same way as Mr. Broker wants, according to the article you're holding. In fact, this program of study will bring Hunter Huss's Career Academy much closer to being on the same level of prestige as the Highland School of Technology. This program would be highly cost-effective because with teachers that are already IB trained, the elimination of the middle years program, and no need to continue paying an IB coordinator, the cost would only be $17,495, and that includes both membership dues and the postage for international communications. And the best part is that everyone wins. Strictly university-bound students can focus on their IB diploma. Students who are undecided can do both IB and CTE, and students who are strictly career-focused can focus on gaining mastery within their career cluster. As I close, I ask you to refer to the letter from the president of the IB Schools of North Carolina on page 8. After these arguments, it's hard to see how anyone could continue to protest the discontinuation of IB. The career program can exist, and students can still pursue an IB diploma. Hunter Huss would finally be the all-purpose county the county so desperately wants it to be, and for it to cost less than $20,000, budget is no longer an issue. After this, the county no longer has much of a compelling argument to cease the continuation of the IB. In light of new evidence, if the county fails to continue this program, they're sending a message to their students. They're not saying that this is a matter of budget, they're saying that this is a matter of location. They're saying, I'm sorry, Huss student, because you live here, you don't deserve a rigorous program. And now, given the track record of compassion and good judgment that the board has shown in the past, I sincerely believe that you want what's best for all of your students. And the best way to accomplish that would be to continue this new IB program, which you've been presented with information. Distinguished board members, I thank you for your time. You now have a fully informed public, and the public has a fully informed board. You now have a choice to make. Do Huss students deserve this equal opportunity? Or are they only good for the career jobs that the rest of students in Gaston County are not being set up to do? Since Huss is well known for their sports, I will end with this. The ball is in your court, board members.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Dedman.
I don't want to comment on what he said, but I'd just like to comment. I thought he said it very well.
Yeah,
And what a
thanks.
fine young man he is, and Emory's lucky. I wish he could go to Carolina.
Our next person to speak will be Jason Wellman.
Good evening. My name is Jason Wellman. I live at 1312 Lamberger Avenue in Gastonia. I'd like to talk to the board about the IB program. Apparently it's an important issue. I appreciate the responsibility you have to come up with decisions. I think this one, I'm being selfish, I think it's a bad decision. I have a daughter that's in the program. This is her second year in it, and she's being told she's not going to be able to complete it. If you're going to do away with the program, at least please make allocation for the students that's already involved in the program to finish it out, not just the juniors and seniors in it this year. It's a great program. The students are doing good with it. I understand the new program is a good program as well, and I can appreciate that. I'm not saying do away with one to get another. Let them finish it out. If you can, extend the IB program. It comes down to diplomas. Everyone in here, I'm assuming, has one. That gets you your start. Everything else builds off of it. This is a better building block. It gives the students an edge. It looks better in college resumes. It'll give them a step up. I think they deserve it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Alicia Hester.
Hi, my name is Alicia Hester, 3716 Carolina Cherry Court. I too am from Hunter Huss. I'm a foods teacher, a CTE teacher. I've brought with me students, former students of mine that have utilized their certifications and are doing very different things with what they've learned in our CTE program at Hunter Huss. I just want to state that CTE and bringing more CTE classes to Hunter Huss opens up more options for our kids. The EMT program, coming in, the gaming, the visualization, those are all opportunities for our students to get more technical, hands-on experience in a very different direction than we have at Hunter Huss now. I, for example, teach Foods 1 and 2. I teach one of the completer classes. My students are able to have the opportunity to get the ServSafe certification certificate. It's the real certification that is in all the restaurants right now. And as of last year, whenever you walk into a food establishment of any kind, there has to be somebody on hand at all times with this certification. It used to be just one person on staff, but now that certification is in more demand, and it makes my kids more marketable. Now, whether they're going to use that certification for a part-time job, to put themselves through school for a career start, or just to maybe take that gap year and figure out what they want to do, that certification gets them in the door quicker and with a higher income starting out. So I just want you to understand that bringing more CTE programs to Hunter Huss is to their advantage, to give them more options, every student. I do have students at App State, I have students at Wake Forest, I have students at Gaston College, and I have students working in the industry, which you'll hear from in a little bit. So thank you for your time. And oh, my own daughters are at Highland. So I really believe in the program. And I thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Brandy Pruitt, and I live at 621 West Garrison Boulevard. And I'm currently a college student at Cleveland Community College. And I took the Allied Health classes at Hunter Huss, and I am currently trying to get into the radiology program at Cleveland Community College. And all of the classes that I took at Hunter Huss helped me to be a better applicant to get into this program. I took Allied Health 1, Biomedical Technology, Health Science 1, and Health Science 2. And everything that I have learned in those classes has helped me in my anatomy and physiology class, my medical terms class, in my classes now that I'm taking in college. And they told me, since I had took those classes at Huss, that it made me a better applicant to get into the program. It gave me points on my application. So that was great for me. And they told me that made me stand out than all the other students that were trying to get in. So that's my story. So thank you.
Thank you, Randy.
Hi, my name is Sonia Peacock. I live at 2341 Maplewood Drive in Gastonia, North Carolina. I actually went to Huss. I actually completed 2 of the pathways, Early Childhood Education 1 and 2 and Foods 1 and 2. both of these have helped me in high school. I did work almost a full-time job to make sure everything I needed was taken care of because my parents had my brothers and sisters, and the ServSafe actually gave me the bump in pay to make sure I had gas for school and my car was taken care of and all that. So I believe in these programs 100%. Early childhood education actually gave me opportunity to work as a preschool teacher while I was at Catawba College my freshman year of college. I've now transferred to Belmont Abbey. But it gave me the opportunity to be a preschool teacher. From there, that preschool actually paid for my schooling. The opportunity I had at Huss actually gave me education for free. So I believe that for that area of Huss, the CTE programs are the best for that area, the students that are going there, the students that honestly, truly are there every day. Yes, there are students that thrive for more. There are students that thrive for more education, like Nate said. But there's the AP program and stuff like that. They could get the same education, but the majority of the people that go to that school are not looking for university. They're looking for, what can I do now to help me in the long run, because I have to get out of Huss and I have to get a job because I need to take care of myself. Like me, I had to take care of myself. I had to make sure I had my clothes. I had to make sure I had my car. The CTE programs will help the students at Huss in a very long run. And that's all. Thank you for hearing me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Yes.
Both Ms. Pruitt and Ms. Peacock had previously signed up.
Yes.
And
Yes.
entitled to their 3 minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
For a record.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Our next speaker will be Nick Fowler. Is Nick here? All right. Don't think so. Sonia Peacock. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Make sure. Did I miss anybody? I got so many papers up here. I'll make sure I didn't miss anybody. Yes. Okay, Shaylin Spencer, are you here?
That's it, Mr. Chairman.
All right, that concludes our public expression for tonight. Our next order of business will be to approve and have any corrections of our minutes. I would like to do January the 11th, February the 15th, which is our Board of Education retreat minutes, and February 16th was also our retreat. And this will be, I will need this in the form of a motion. This is an action item.
Chairman, I move that we approve January 11th, February 15th, and February 16th minutes as written.
Okay, I have a motion for approval of the minutes. Do I have a second? Mr. Dedman has seconded that motion. Any corrections or any discussion? Seeing no corrections or discussion, all in favor? And it is unanimous, so the minutes have been approved. Our next item on our agenda will be a classroom moment, and I would like to recognize Dr. Baltnight.
Good evening, Chairman Lutz, members of the board, Superintendent Booker. I'm very pleased tonight to introduce one of our great educators in Gaston County. And I asked her to share a few things about herself so that I could share them with you this evening. And the very last thing she put in the very last sentence is that in 14-15, she was the Gaston County, North Carolina Pre-K Teacher of the Year. So I'll start with that, even though she put that at the end of her bio. So at this time, I'd like to invite Stephanie Watts to come up. She's a graduate of UNC Chapel Hill, Mr. Dedman, in early childhood education with highest honors, and began working at Forest Heights Elementary the same year in 2004. She is bilingual in English and Spanish. During her time at Gaston County Pre-K, she has served as a mentor, grade level chair, and as a member of the pre-K screening team for incoming applicants. For many years, she has also facilitated various workshops to beginning teachers in pre-K, offered workshops to all grade levels, and support staff during her Gaston County tenure. She's also presented at our Teaching and Learning Conference and given classes for private early centers during the Midwinter Conference. She has reached many teachers across the district in her Teacher-to-Teacher Conference at UNC Charlotte and across the region. At this time, I would like to turn it over to Mrs. Watts to share what a day in the life of a pre-K student in her classroom at Forest Heights looks like. Thank you.
And I'll just warn you, you'll be tired. She is on go at 7:30 in the morning and just lights up the room. It is great to see you tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Balknight. Esteemed members of the board and fellow colleagues, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to represent North Carolina Pre-K here in Gaston County. I would like to briefly discuss the evaluation and assessment tool that is enacted in all NC Pre-K classrooms in both the public schools and in the private centers with our NC Pre-K rooms. Teaching Strategies Gold. In your blue packets that you have been given, you've been given a copy of the goals and objectives covered in the assessment. It looks like this. There's roughly 65 objectives that we cover with all 18 of our students 3 times a year at the end of the fall trimester, spring, and our winter times. It is also aligned with the NC Pre-K Standard Course of Study Foundations. I brought a copy of this if you'd like for me to just pass it around while we're having a discussion. Thank you. Teaching Strategies Gold covers an array of subjects and developmental domains, allowing the assessment of the whole child. The objectives include the social-emotional domains, fine motor skills, gross motor skills, cognitive processes, approaches to learning, expressive language, receptive language. It also covers math, literacy, and other core subjects such as science, social studies, and the fine arts. And there's also a component where we monitor English language acquisition for our English language learners. Teaching Strategies Gold was implemented in the NC Pre-K program 5 years ago. Since then, it has transformed the way early childhood educators plan, teach, and assess our students. Educators document students' abilities in the aforementioned areas through the use of videos, sound bites, pictures, and anecdotal records. This information is compiled into an online portfolio that is also shared with families. What's so great about the TSG, the Teaching Strategies Gold, is that families can actually gain access to the information that we put in for the students. We can share which anecdotals, which artifacts we'd like to share with them, and it gives them access to the real-time learning of their children. They don't just have to wait till conferences or if we make a phone call or would like to invite them in. They have access to it at any time of the day. This information is then assessed at the end of each trimester and turned into numerical data. The numerical data is then turned into reports reflecting the individual child as well as the whole class. So the educator, we teachers, can take that information to better provide whole group instruction, differentiate for small groups, as well as plan our learning centers and our one-on-one activities. This information is also used to take to referral meetings or to MTSS or to show if there might be some greater supports that might need to take place, especially before they go to their kindergarten year. An added benefit with Teaching Strategies Gold is that it is a communication tool with families. Not only are the families having access to the site, but there is a database of activities based on the goals and objectives that the children may be working on in school, allowing the families to be more empowered with their kids learning at home. They can access these activities, and they're also available in Spanish for our Spanish-speaking families. Our progress reports are also translated into Spanish so that we have that better communication with that population in our county. The reports not only show the students' current levels and abilities, but also reflects what the students will be working towards. So that better equips our parents with goals and things that they can work on at home and gives them an understanding of what activities we have better in place for them at school. Due to the continuous nature of the evaluation tool, a teacher gets immediate feedback on the goals that are taught. This is helpful for the teacher to plan to the level of the children, both in whole class instruction, small groups, and on a one-on-one basis. And not having to pull the children aside and away from their learning experiences means that the teacher can implement an activity or work on skills that's in an applicable way for the child. Information is gathered through intentionally planned activities, transitions, checklists, and through the use of taking documentation, anecdotal records, and pictures during their free time. In summary, Teaching Strategies Gold Evaluation and Assessment Tool has allowed Gaston County NC Pre-K to show our accountability in what is taught in the classroom and why it is taught. The personal progress reports, classroom reports, show the efficacy of our efforts. The daily use of the tool is reflected in our planning of goals and in our teaching methods, and how our students are differentiated in learning centers and through intentional small groups and one-on-one instruction. The reports also present clear data that can be used in referral cases or to attempt to get more supports for our students that may need that. I encourage you to visit our classrooms to see how this method of instruction and assessment is incorporated. I also extend a personal invitation to speak more in detail about objectives addressed and to demonstrate what the online portfolio system looks like in person on the computer. Again, thank you for this opportunity to discuss how the Gaston County NC Pre-K program is on the forefront of early childhood in our state and what we are doing to become the highest quality of educators for our students, our families, and our school system. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Dedman.
Stephanie, thank you. I got to know Stephanie. I signed up for one of the classes last summer at the Teaching Learning Conference, and I learned more in 30 minutes. Being a high school person, I knew nothing about pre-K, but you really need to visit her classroom. It's the most phenomenal thing in the world. I mean, I don't know how they can't leave those children. They have to do something with them all the time. But what they're doing for them is fantastic. I've been over there to read a couple times and play in the classroom. I have one question I asked Mrs. Baldwin. Those children that are in the pre-K, do we do any kind of tracking with them versus a group of children that hadn't been in pre-K over a 2 or 3 year period? Just curious.
I don't know of any studies within Gaston County, but I do know that there's longitudinal studies. There was the Abecedarian Project from the 80s, which did track some of those children who had started early childhood programs. It was in the Chapel Hill area. And they did not only note did those students have better outcomes, but they also noticed that many of them had health benefits. They had less heart disease, and they just had an overall better outcome.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Collier.
Stephanie, this is very impressive. The question I have, though, is
yes, sir.
Is this an internal document or information report, or do you share this with parents? I'm not sure parents could grasp every
Well,
step
there's
of
a
this.
progress report that is more parent-friendly, and it actually has more parent language, and we can kind of choose which goals we would like. We usually highlights the strength of the students and then those that we're working towards. And that way we kind of differentiate for our families.
So you could probably ramp up detail if a parent wanted it.
I could.
Okay. All right.
Yes, sir.
All right, that's good, because this is a little overwhelming for probably me as a parent.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of information,
Yeah.
but it gives us a great perspective of the whole child.
Yes, Ms. Guthrie.
Stephanie, I want to thank you for all that you do with preschool children. We have 5 preschool classes at my school, and at the beginning of the year, they come in crying. They come in screaming. They do not want their parents to leave them, but after a while, they learn how to develop those social skills that are so important. And once they do that, you can gradually see them maturing along the way. And they do learn how to be respectful and, of course, to develop little friendships among themselves and their peers. So I applaud you for all that you do, and we thank you so much for that strong foundation, which is so important to student learning and achievement.
Thank you, Ms. Guthrie.
Mr. Upchurch.
And this is, thank you for all that you do out there for the pre-K. And my question, either for you or Dr. Botnight, is how many pre-Ks do we have out there across the county? And how do parents, because every time the program gets started or whatever, I get a call that says, how do I get my child into pre-K? Are there any vacancies left? Where can I go? So how many are there? And
I will invite our director of pre-K. What I will say to you is I know that she has a long waiting list. Last spring, we started our first year of pre-K and kindergarten registration together, so it was great for us to see all the families come in and get enrolled in pre-K and understanding the requirements to get into pre-K. And I think the information that Stephanie says further validates the conversations you hear across the country about early education and the importance of pre-K. So I commend them for pulling the data and sharing the resources with the parents, but it also gives those kindergarten teachers, as those students ramp up to the next grade level, concrete information. When I was in a school as a principal, we were not given from pre-K. So I would like to commend them, and I'll let Ms. McCollum come up and answer your questions.
I just want to let you know we have a great pre-K program in our county, and thank you so much for your support. I don't think every county gets the support from a board, and we appreciate it. We generally have about 12 to 1,500 applications and are able to serve about 900 children, about 400 and about 500 in the public school classes, and then we have private sites that we're also able to serve close to 400, and that's a tremendous asset to kindergarten as they come in so much better prepared. Anybody that calls you and wants to know how to get in, if you can direct them to me, I can get them lots of information. We'll have a registration starting in May. It's a busy, busy time for us. Class sizes are 18, no more than 18 in a class. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
And I will share with members of the board, Stephanie has done a great job of the legislators you met with this morning. She has reached out, and Honorable Representative Torbert has spent, I know, 2 days in her class with her, and he, to his credit, he doesn't just come and leave, he stays. And she's done a great job of educating him on the value of pre-K and what it does in our school system.
Our next item on the agenda is middle school resources, and Dr. Knight's already here.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Lutz, members of the board, Superintendent Booker. We are requesting permission to move forward with 2 sole source providers for robotics parts. As you all recall, at our Board of Education retreat, we recommended transitioning from an after-school middle school program for robotics with students to offering that during the school day through our CTE. And we are actually using funds that are already existing for CTE programs. As a part of the recommendations from the CTE Oversight Committee, we are moving those resources and trainings and supports to students to our middle school. And our first piece is the robotics incorporated into our encore rotation. So we're asking permission to move forward with Pittsco Education and Modern Robotics for robotics parts.
Okay.
This is an action item.
This is an action item, and it will need to be in the form of a motion.
So move.
Mr. Ramsey has made the motion. Do I have a second? I'd say Dot second that, and I can get both of them. Any discussion? Any discussion on this? Seeing no discussion, all in favor? And it is unanimous. Thank you, Dr. Bolt-Knight.
Thank you.
Our next item will be our Curriculum and Instruction Committee report, and I would like to recognize Ms. Guthrie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Roberts will read the majority of the minutes from our meeting.
I hope you're comfortable because we went over a ton of information. It was a really good meeting. Members present were our chair, Ms. Guthrie, myself, Dot Cherry, Jeff Ramsey, Mr. Booker, Melissa Balk-Knight, and Lolita Williams. Others present were Brent Boone, Jody Edwards, Shelley Bullard, Risa Hull, Brett Buchanan, Glennis Brooks, Carrie Minnick, Jennifer Hamrick, Terry Springer, and Grace Russell that spoke earlier to us. So we had a lot in our meeting. Yes. Ms. Russell gave a quick overview earlier of what she brought to us. As she stated, she is a senior at South Point, and she presented the state board with her information over honesty and integrity. I'm not going to go through all that again because she went through it. We also went over the Gaston Links to Success program, where Jennifer Hamrick and Terry Springer shared information with us on Gaston County's post-secondary transition program for our 18 to 22-year-olds. This is for students with significant intellectual disabilities. We have, of the 883 students attending this federally funded post-secondary program statewide in 2013 through 2014, 39% had a job. Of those in their fourth year, more than 75% were working a paid job, interning, or participating in career developmental activities. A few of the program goals upon completion are increase in social skills and communication, positive relationships with non-disabled persons in their age group, age-appropriate leisure and recreational skills, gainful employment or opportunities to volunteer, and participation in transition classes and Gaston College classes. And they actually gave us great feedback with students and their parents, and that was great to hear, and just to be able to see the transition in these students' lives at school and at home and in their jobs. We also went over the Hunter Huss Academy. Mr. Boone and Mr. Buchanan shared with us the updates on the proposal. There will be an emphasis on the shift from the IB to the CTE. Students in the process of obtaining an IB diploma will continue receiving IB support. Current funding will be allocated to support CTE. No new spending for the district. Professional development will be ongoing throughout the transition. A community forum will be scheduled for families of the students of Hunter Huss, and the Academy will support 11 career clusters. 2 new clusters were added based on student interest. An update on the STEAM Academy at Hawks Nest. Ms. Hoyle reviewed updates on the new magnet school for us. All pre-K through 3rd grade students will receive a parent letter and application from Mr. Booker. Applications are due by May 13th at 5 p.m. Want to make sure everyone could hear that. We will be using the Highland School of Technology lottery process, and that lottery for Hawks Nest will be held on May 20th from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. at Highland. Funding grants have been submitted and resources are being ordered. Positions have been posted and interviews are being scheduled. We also had updates on summer camps. Ms. Edwards and Ms. Hoyle presented updates on the following programs. Kindergarten Ramp-Up Program. Currently enrolled kindergarten students will get an opportunity to review skills in kindergarten and given a preview of 1st grade. Ready, Set, Here We Go. The summer opportunity will support rising kindergarten students by providing screening before school begins. Students will also begin practicing their routine for a better kickoff to school. Read to Achieve. Students in the 1st through 3rd grades that are below grade level will be given the opportunity to participate in a 16-day reading camp. The camp will focus on literacy through their higher order thinking skills and poetry. We had great progress with that last year. Summer Enrichment Camp. We will offer several enrichment opportunities that include leadership and government, Minecraft, robotics, and arts. Everything I Need to Get into College and Earn Scholarships. I'm sure we have a lot of parents interested in that. Rising juniors and seniors will have the opportunity to participate in a 2-week camp to review ACT, SAT content and complete their high school resume and college essay. Students will also complete practice interviews for possible scholarship opportunities. And advanced placement preparation. High school students get an opportunity to participate in a practice AP review session to improve their passing rate on their AP exams. The middle school support update. Ms. Brooks shared with us that middle schools will be provided new resources and extensive professional development in math. Middle schools will receive new math textbook resources, including purchasing textbooks and 100 hours of professional development for teachers. I know teachers, students, and parents will be very happy to hear that. Each Title I math school will select 75 students, which would be 25 per grade level, through a lottery process to attend the math camp. Teachers will use this math materials and focus on small group instruction. And last but not least, back to school update. Dr. Bullard outlined the back-to-school plans. All employees will participate in mini conferences by grade span. For example, all employees that work in an elementary school will participate in a keynote focused on making connections. After the keynote, all elementary employees will receive their annual updates and breakout sessions. Middle schools will focus on middle school concept, and high schools will focus on blended learning. Each of these mini conferences will occur on August 23rd at the following location. Elementary schools will be at Ashbrook, middle schools at Forest View, and high schools at Stuart Kramer.
Mr. Chair, I have some.
Ms. Guthrie, I'd just like to say one thing before I recognize you to speak. How many days were y'all there? That was quite an extensive report, and I'm not sure, but Mr. Collier may be embarrassed.
No, I'm not.
Yes, Ms. Guthrie.
I was about to say, Mr. Chair, as you can tell from the minutes read, that there are some wonderful and exciting literacy programs and events planned for the children here in Gaston County Schools. Also, I am going to highlight just one more thing which will need board approval. EOC Summer School for Retesting. Students will be offered an opportunity to retest after a short review in June. This could positively impact school and district growth. The students will be given the opportunity to receive credit for the course, and we will need to have the board approve of that, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Guthrie. Any other comments or questions about the curriculum committee?
Just a point of order. This is a motion coming from the committee with a motion and a second.
I was going to ask the question. Can we have this as an action item at this time without having it on the agenda?
You can, and since it comes from the committee,
Okay.
it doesn't require a second.
Okay. Thank you very much. I recognize your request, Ms. Guthrie, and there's no need for a second. Mr. Collier, discussion?
I think this is a wonderful opportunity to do this, and I realize we probably need to take action tonight, so
Yes.
I'm supporting
Yes.
this, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Collier. Any other comments? Yes.
I guess just a question of clarification. It's for the summertime and the summer camp, Ms. Guthrie, so is there additional cost to that, having teachers stay and do the training, and what would that cost be? And is there I guess my other part of that question, is there a parameter by which the kids can retest if they missed it by 10 points, missed it by 20 points? If they made a 0, are they going to be able to come back in? I mean, is there ever a point where that little bit, and I'm assuming it's a little bit, maybe it's more, that little bit of review really isn't going to push a kid who made a 10 to a 75
May I
or whatever?
refer that, Dr. Faulkner, if you would.
Yes, sir, Mr. Powell. One of the things that we can do, and this is something that's being offered across the state in the Department of Public Instruction. Several years ago, we were allowed as a district to retest in the last 2 days of school all of our EOGs and EOCs for kids that didn't quite make it. So there will be a small, narrow percentage of students that are close but not quite there. Maybe they not had such a great test day, or they need those 8 days of review and remediation with those teachers. And then they'll be given the opportunity to retest. We think it's a positive for our high school students, because if they don't have this opportunity, then they would go back in the fall and have to give it one of their sections of course time to do a credit recovery and those sorts of things. So we think this is a better way for a child to maximize their high school experience by taking 8 additional days at the end of this school year to retake the course and get credit.
I guess a follow-up question to that, and I understand the principle behind that, that if they're close, they kind of make it, they don't. But we have students that are rolling from high school to college, whether it be community college, 4-year college, whatever that might be. And I know for a lot of our students, I deal with some already, that when they fail the class at the end of the year, it costs them money to retake the class. They don't get to just retake the test, they have to retake the class. And I wonder sometimes if by doing the retest to retest, whether it be a weekend retest, an after-school retest, or I'm having to swivel in the chair, or an end-of-the-year test, are we doing them are we not doing them any good by allowing them to retest? Because in college, unless you just got a really gracious professor, she's just going to, or he's just going to say, sorry, take the class again.
And the benefits outweigh the cost to me.
The other piece that I might add, Mr. Howell, to your point, is that these are on the front end of their high school career. These courses that we're talking about, they'd have the opportunity to retest in are Math 1, for example.
Right.
They typically take that their freshman year. So, you know, we also think about kids and dropping out, and we want to make sure that they don't have a bad first experience in high school. And the biggest percentage with research shares with us that if a child does not get that sophomore status at the end of their freshman year, they're more apt or more likely to drop out.
I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm thinking out loud.
Right.
You know, are we? And some kids, are we setting a precedent to say when they get to college and they don't pass and they go, can I just take that test again? And so maybe some, and I'm sure our teachers do a lot of teaching on the front end of that.
Mm-hmm.
But the other part of that is there a cost associated with that being a summer program, and what is the cost?
The cost will be minimal, and compared to other summer programs like Read to Achieve, we are not required to offer transportation. We don't plan to. What we intend to do is allow the high school principal at their school site to identify their Math 1 teacher that already knows those students that can work with them, and quickly, they already know what the child is deficient in, review those things with them and get them prepared for this last opportunity to take the EOC again in the same school year.
Any other questions? Mr. Dedman?
Basically, we're doing that right now. The only thing different is we're going to have those days in there and pay a teacher. And it is probably a good thing. Those kids that don't show back up, they're not going to show up anyway. I mean, if they fail and you give them the opportunity, so I think it's a good thing.
Any other discussion? This is an action item, and we've seen no more discussion. All in favor? And it is unanimous. Thank you, Dr. Ball-Knight. Thank you, Ms. Guthrie. Our next committee report will be the Operations Committee, and I would like to recognize Kevin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Me. Wait. I'm gonna pare down my comments. I also was going to say something about that committee getting to eat, but Mr. Holler, we'd rather just keep skipping our meals and get our work done.
Don't eat brick and mortar.
The Operations Committee is made up of myself, Mr. Dedman, Mr. Howell, and Mr. Upchurch. All members were present. We also had staff members there, Superintendent Mr. Booker, Mark Holler, Danny Garrett, Marcella Calvert. We discussed the following items. One was, the big thing was a follow-up from the discussion we held in our board retreat, centering on the capital needs along with the remaining $40 million in the 2007 bond. We discussed this at our last work session and presented an idea, and we plan to meet again and come back with more detail as a presentation to the board. We have over $700 million in repairs and needs out there. We pared that down to more of a critical $170 million list, and then we're going to try to pare that down, as we talked about last week, into a $35 million list. We gave you ideas, but we're also going to try to touch every school and every municipality in this county. We also discussed the Gaston County Commissioner Township grants, the ones that were approved. These grants are to address the gym floor at Cherryville High School's Nixon Gym, the track and practice field and fencing at Hunter Huss High School, and improvements to lighting and sound in the auditorium of South Point High School, which also includes some paving at South Point High School. If you want any details on that, I'll be glad to give you more details on where we are. But beyond that, we are scheduled to meet on April the 11th at 4:30. It's our next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Collier. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Collier or the committee at this time? All right, seeing no questions, we're going to move on to the next item. Would like to recognize Mr. Booker for the 2015-16 inclement weather makeup plan.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to let you know, Mr. Holler was up at 4 this morning because we had a weather alert. So we appreciate your patience as we bring this item forward to you, but we have waited in anticipation of night, and it was plenty cold today. I was informed by several schools. Just to recap, We missed January 25th and 26th, and those are 2 days that need to be made up. February 15th was a scheduled day to make up one of those, and we had to cancel that day. So you didn't lose an additional day, you just lost that opportunity. So you have 2 days that the entire district was out. Additionally, on February 25th, during the high winds and the related storms, we had 2 schools, Chapel Grove Elementary and Stanley Middle School, that were unable to attend school on that day. The rest of the district was able to attend. So it is my recommendation, after working with all of Cabinet, that we would ask the board to waive the 2 days not attended by students. We have enough hours in our calendar to allow that to occur. And then for the day that Chapel Grove and Stanley were out of school, on April 21st is a early release day, and on that day, those 2 schools would stay for a normal school day to make up that day. I have spoken with the leaders of both of those schools, and they have the ability to work that out with transportation. They will move their parent-teacher conferences to that evening, so they will still deliver those services to our school community. But that is the recommendation I would bring to the board tonight.
All right. This will be an action item, and this is the recommendation from staff. Anyone have? Yes, Mr. Collier.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we take staff's recommendation and we waive the 2 days not attended by students, and that we allow April the 21st to be the makeup days for Chapel Grove Elementary and Stanley Middle School attending a full day of school instead of a half day of school.
Thank you, Mr. Collier. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Guthrie has seconded the motion. Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Howell.
I've been looking at this. It was on our board book, and I agree with waiving the 2 days, the 25th and the 26th, that we missed school. My only question, and I guess it comes from Mr. Booker since it's a staff recommendation, the one additional day for Chapel Grove to go a half day longer than everybody else. My concern with that day, when we're only talking about 2 schools, are parents that have kids that go to an elementary school in the Stanley area or a high school early grade, or the parents that have kids that go to Chapel Grove that may attend Southwest or early schools of Hunter Huss or one of the feeder schools. They're going to have to repurpose their schedule to be able to go and get their kids from a full day versus some of the kids from a half day. Do we have the ability to forgive those 2 schools that day so that they keep their half day? Parents don't have to rearrange the schedules. They have multiple kids in schools. To me, it just makes more sense if we have the ability to do it, to make that not such a burden on parents.
Have you ever had a situation like that before?
We have had this situation before, and the schools made the time up typically on a Saturday, and we felt when we discussed this at staff, we came to a consensus, and then I reached out to both of the schools to make sure that transportation could be handled in a timely basis with the other schools dismissing, because we felt it was important. The thing, I understand, Mr. Howell makes a great point, but we also would put those 2 schools on a different, in the event, I mean, some of us remember that it can snow in this community in April. I'm not saying it will, but it could after we've had spring break, and would put them on an uneven if you had to make another decision. So we thought this was a way to accomplish making that time up. Also, both of those schools' leadership said we'd like to have the time with our children to teach them. So it was I was very appreciative of the way they approached it, saying we want time with our kids.
Thank you, Mr. Booker. Any other discussion? All right, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor? Okay, all against? Thank you. Mr. Booker, our next item on the agenda will be the superintendent's budget request, and I'd like to recognize you and Mr. Hoskins.
Thank you. While Gary's making his way up, you all have a budget notebook at your desk. We appreciate the time you have given us in a work session to hear what we were talking about and to reflect on that. So tonight, Gary will walk you through the book. I just wanted to take a moment and let you know how many hours go into getting to this point. He has a great team that sit over there in Bradford Heights and do a lot of detailed work, and proof this and just provide you a high-quality document, you will notice that every fall you have the pleasure of watching them get awards. And the awards start with work like this. And so I just wanted to take a moment and commend the people he has that put this together. We sit around and mark it up and send it back, and they just keep smiling and doing the changes. And so, Gary, I just appreciate that, if you'll walk them through.
Sure, absolutely. And, you know, in that light, special thanks to Delane Loftus, James Beckford, Susan Brooks, and Benita Cooper, who all had a part in preparing this and assembling this for you guys. With that, you know, we are here to present the superintendent's budget request for 2016-2017. First, a look at the budget calendar. There's really been no changes since we talked last time. We are still planning to have the budget adopted at the April 11th meeting. This will be your budget. And then presented the budget to the county commissioners by May 15th. The rest of the items on there, a lot of those depend on the state legislature, the General Assembly, and how they approve the state budget. In looking at the state budget, as a reminder, this is our second year in the biennial budget, which was approved for 2015 through 2017. The assumptions they used for the budget last year were modest growth of about 3.9 to 4.1%, some growth in sales tax, and improving economic outlook. I think most of that seems to have been achieved over the last year, year and a half. So since it's the second year of the biennial budget, we do not have a governor's budget or a budget from the General Assembly at this point in time, as we did last year. The General Assembly is scheduled to go into, I think, a short session in April. At that time, we'll probably have some guidance, but according to DPI, we should pretty much anticipate our state allotments next year to be very similar to what they are this year, and that's what we will use until we hear some specific numbers from the state. What we have here in front of you is the superintendent's budget is primarily focused on our local operating budget as well as our local capital budget. This will include our existing funding as well as any changes in that existing funding, primarily new funding, and any usage of our fund balance. The number one funding item, and as you recall, we started this process back in December. We started surveying our stakeholders, which is our leadership at the school system, our principals, our teachers, students, parents, business leaders, community leaders. We asked them what their primary budget funding priorities were, and every single one of those stakeholders had teacher salary supplements and improving those teacher salary supplements as their number one funding priority. And so I want to carve this out and spend a little bit of extra time on this one as opposed to everything else. As a reminder, we call it teacher supplements, but this is really for all certified personnel, so guidance counselors, nurses, etc. And also last year, the board stepped up and funded $1 million increase for these supplements through our fund balance. And we will be asking for the county to step up and fund that $1 million that we funded this year out of an additional county appropriation. The reason that we all seem to say that our teacher salary supplements are the number one funding priority is, as you can see, all of our neighboring counties, we are next to the bottom. You know, only Cleveland County has a smaller salary supplement than us when you look at our neighboring counties. We're at 2,229, and this is last year's data prior to the increase from last year. And if you look at other school districts that are of similar size, around 20 to 40,000 students, we are at the bottom. So that is why we're always talking about our certified salary supplements and improving those in our teacher salary supplements. So with that, we broke out our new funding request into three categories. Number one is school personnel, number two is in instructional programs, and number three is operations. So the first item under school personnel is the salary supplement. And as I mentioned earlier, this number is $1.5 million. $1 million of that is already ongoing. It's going to be a recurring cost, but we are funding that from our fund balance. So we're going to ask the county to fund that with a county appropriation. The additional $500,000 represents an increase. And what we're trying to do is, over a 3-year period, at least get to where one of our neighbors, Cabarrus County, was last year. So 3 consecutive $500,000 increases will get us much more competitive with Cabarrus County, which is of similar size and similar location. The second item, and I believe this has been a repeat as well, is increasing our K-3 literacy teachers. One of our primary focuses has always been literacy, as well as math and middle school math in particular. This would allow us to add 1 additional literacy teacher in every of our primary elementary school classes or elementary schools. Right now, we currently have literacy teachers in all of our Title I schools, the elementary Title I schools. So this would give it across the board. I think it's 29 schools. Also, we're asking for some additional funding for middle school teachers. Middle schools have typically had much higher student-to-pupil ratios. That's a tough, those are tough years for students. Middle schools, just due to the adolescence. This would add roughly 2 additional teachers for our 11 middle schools. That's an additional 22 middle school teachers, which would help improve not only our math, middle school math focus, but all of our middle school instruction. The classified salary increase, this represents a 3% increase for all of our non-certified personnel. So that does not include teachers or nurses. We addressed that, we addressed that with $1.5 million. This is for maintenance workers, bus drivers, cafeteria workers, etc. So this would represent 3%, which I believe the state and the county workers got either last year or the year before, and our workers did not receive an increase. So that is what we're requesting for that.
Mr. Hobson, can I
Yes, sir.
I realize that this board is dedicated to increase the supplements, and I think we've made a statement by doing what we have done in the past and what we're about to do this following year. But aren't other districts increasing their supplement on a yearly basis?
Yes, sir, they are.
We're trying to catch up, but we're chasing a rabbit because that rabbit's getting further and further ahead.
Right. We are. When I say $500,000, 3 consecutive years would get us where Cabarrus County, it's where Cabarrus County was last year. So you're absolutely right, because they're bumping theirs up as well. But that's a target that we felt was achievable and that we could reasonably request the county to fund for us. Other school personnel, DEC, Department of Exceptional Children Compliance. There's been changes in the DEC rules over the last couple of years. There's some state requirements that we have some things in place by 2020 that we're trying to get in place. This would help us to do a better job of identifying children that can benefit from EC services. That helps the children. We also get funding from that, so it's fully funding. So I think it's a win-win for both the kids as well as the school system. Hawks Nest STEAM Magnet Program, a couple of additional personnel to help make that Hawks Nest STEAM program a success, $100,000 for that. Kindergarten summer camp, excuse me. It's a 2-day summer camp, which is primarily, the purpose is to acclimate those young children to a school setting, what the expectations are, walk them through a lunch line, do some preliminary testing of those children, which we normally don't do until early in the school year, so that we can identify any special needs that they may have that we may need to address when the school starts. So it gives us a head start with those kids, and also gives them a head start on what to expect when they go to kindergarten. And the last item is the employer paid benefit increase. I think according to DPI, we should expect about a 1% increase in our health insurance benefits and about a 2% increase in retirement, so that's fairly modest this year. It's been much higher in years past. So once we get the state allotments, we'll have a better idea of what that number will be, but that's the guidance we've been provided so far. So just with school personnel, our total increase ask from the county is $5,595,000. On the instructional and support programs, Hawks Nest, the STEAM program, $380,000. That represents the materials and supplies for, I think, 18 classrooms plus a STEAM lab, in addition to the technology for all of those, the smart boards and all the other technology for the Hawks Nest STEAM program. Instructional supplies for the literacy teachers. This is the 29 teachers, the supplies that they will be using. That's a one-time cost for that. Also a one-time cost is workshop expense for the STEAM to get those teachers trained on the STEAM curriculum and agenda and have them prepared when those kids start class in August. DEC compliance, I mentioned this earlier. This is what is called, I think, MTSS, multi-tiered system of support. We are currently doing part of that, but we need to be fully implemented by the year 2020, and this additional $50,000 will help us expand our existing MTSS program in order to comply with the state requirements. Excuse me. And the final item is middle school math training. You know, as I mentioned, elementary literacy and middle school math. We have identified new math textbooks that we plan to use for next year. That will be funded from state textbook money. This $50,000 represents what it will cost for us to train those middle school math teachers so that we're all working in the same direction and off the same curriculum agenda. So total instructional and support programs is $612,000 for that. And finally, operations replaced the smart board computers. We have just over 2,000 smart boards, and every smart board is run by a computer. And these computers were put in place in 2011, I believe. So they're pushing 5 years old this summer. And those things, keep in mind, they're running 7 hours a day, 180 days a year. So some of those, they're out of warranty, some are failing, some are getting very slow. So we are requesting from the county sufficient funds to replace the computers so that those smart boards are much more interactive, and the kids, you know how the kids expect things to work immediately, and this will help improve our speed in our instruction. And finally, the last item, and this was a repeat from last year, is to image student records. I think the last time that we received funding to do that was 2010. Since then, we have been maintaining student records in paper format. That cost money as far as storage. It has some security risk. So if we're able to image those records, we're able to free up some storage space and also improve our security of that very sensitive and confidential student data. So operations totals $1.3 million. So when you add all of that up, our new funding request is $7.5 million. And of that $7.5 million, we're planning to fund $132,000 of that from our fund balance. That is all one-time cost for the literacy teachers, as well as some one-time cost for the STEAM program. So our additional request from the county would be $7,375,000. So our total requested funding, our existing funding is $43.8 million. The total requested funding will be $51.3 million. And when you look at our total local funding, that also includes our fines and forfeitures, which has typically been $750,000 fairly consistently over the last several years. And it would also include our contribution through our fund balance. And we are, as I mentioned, requesting that we reduce that by around $1 million. So our fund balance usage would decrease down to $1,849,000. So the total local funding number would be $53.9 million. As I mentioned, fund balance, our current fund balance is about 2.5% of our revenues. I think we talked a little bit about this in more depth at the board retreat. This is really where our peer group is, between the 2 and 3% range. The reason that we're asking for the county to fund that $1 million is that there is risk associated with funding ongoing costs with fund balance, because it will continue to deplete that balance. And finally, our capital outlay. Capital outlay covers roofing, HVAC, vehicles, plumbing, any building device other than maintenance. So the reason that we are going to be asking for an increase in our capital outlay is that this is a chart of the age of our buildings. And the right side of that chart, if you look at all the buildings that are 40 years old or older, that's 57% of our buildings. So that's why our capital needs are greater than probably a lot of the school systems that have been building newer buildings over the last 40 years.
And it's in your budget book under tab D, D3, page 3 under tab D, if you want to see the chart you just had.
So our capital request is going to be $5.2 million. This is consistent with what it was last year. That's about $1 a square foot. We were funded last year at $1,227,000. That's about 25 cents a square foot. So we are requesting an increase in what we receive from the county to cover our aging facilities. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it back over to you and Superintendent Booker.
I'll refer to Mr. Booker for comments.
A couple things. You all can see Gary's voices, so I want to just walk you through the book a little bit. Under the overview tab A, if you could go to page 14, A14. That shows you the state's projection of our average daily membership for next year, 31,665. If you will flip over to A17, you will see a line graph. When we talk about 32,000 children, that takes into account the pre-K students that you just heard talked about. So what you need to see is that in 2016, that number of 31,555 relates back to 665. So the state is projecting you to continue growing. 110 additional students is their estimate. We have exceeded their estimates in the past several years. So I just wanted you to know you have that data there. And then if you go under section C, where it says operating request, that tab, and go back to page 8, C8, the funding expansion request. So each of the things that Mr. Hoskins just went through on the slide are summarized here. One thing that you all highlighted in our work session, line item 1 under new initiatives, was that the $1 million is an ongoing, it's not new, and that we shouldn't be saying 1.5, we should have the $1 million there and then the 500 there. So that was a change from feedback you all had given to my initial proposal. Also, the same format that Mr. Hoskins introduced when he came to work here in 2014 accompanies it. And what we have tried to do is lay out not just a beginning year request, but what we feel like the request is over 3 years, so that you see whether it has an ongoing expense or if it's a one-time expense. So that's what the sheets from C9 to the end of that tab, C19, lay out for you. And then the capital outlay gives you background on what the money has been spent for the last 5 years, as well as what we propose to do with it, and gives you some historical data. So you have a lot of information here. Todd's team will post this on the website within the next couple of days so that the community can see that, because you all have opportunity, as you see in the calendar, to look at this, review it. I know you'll have questions tonight, but you can have additional questions before we bring it back to you on the 11th, where we would adopt, with the way the calendar of meetings and works, we have to submit to the Board County of Commission by May 15th. So I just wanted to give you that. You all can see Gary's struggling a little bit with his voice, so I was going to pick that part up for him. But we'll be glad to entertain questions now. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Booker. Any questions for Mr. Hoskins or Mr. Booker? Yes, Mr. Howell.
Mr. Booker, looking at the increase of middle school teachers by 22, which is two per 11 schools. Would that be 2 per middle school, or would we spread that around, is the first question. The second question is, my understanding is a lot of our middle schools are at capacity. So where would those teachers teach? Are we talking about having to move in mobile units, which adds costs? Would there be room space available in that?
All great questions,
And then
Mr.
the
Howell.
third question I have, and I'll give them to you all at one time.
Okay.
That way I can shut up and listen. The 1.8125, so $1,812,500 for the total for the K-3 literacy teachers, the 29.
Yes, sir.
How many students would those 29 teachers serve total? Just
Okay.
those 29, not what do we do in K-3 literacy?
All right.
With that, I'll wait for an answer.
All right, we'll start with the middle schools. The 22 teachers are an estimate. We are currently working with our leadership team. We started back last summer. Dr. Abernathy did I'm going to call it a boot camp, Dixie, is that fair? With our middle school teachers, middle school leaders, principals, and just evaluating where we were in our implementation overall of middle school. The middle school concept was introduced back in the late 80s, early 90s, and where were we and where was our leadership in that? And we identified some opportunities to revisit how we're implementing middle schools in our community. So they started there. We sent folks to the national conference. We've got folks going to the state conference. And along with that, Dr. Balknight, along with Ms. Matson's accountability team, have been meeting with each of the principals saying, instead of us saying you get this many teachers because you have this many students, let's look at what you think you need to deliver the program and how many teachers it takes to do that. So reversing the way we're looking at it. And from the first passes of that, we started seeing somewhere between 1.5 to 3 teachers, and so that's where the 22 came from. So does it mean that each school is going to get 2? It may not. It may be that they get 1, or it could be an exceptional children's teacher need. And so this is an estimate of what we believe it is with the 22, because that analysis is still ongoing as we look at it. So is that satisfactory on the first 2?
Are you good to where they would teach it as far as space-wise?
Then
okay.
That's just giving you the numbers of where the 22 came. Now, as far as allocating them in, we would, the veteran principals will talk to you about how you utilize the special classes. What are done as encore classes, and you flex your group sizes for that to allow you to do groupings within your teams, and that's where you can utilize those teachers and provide adequate space. I'm not sitting here tonight to advocate that we'll do things on a cart, but we can utilize rooms and expand, because you are right, moving mobile units around is expensive and utilizing that space. And we do have a number of our middle schools at capacity. So that is an issue that you all are looking at in the facilities committee to try and see what are we going to do with capacity overall, particularly in certain areas of our community. But we believe we've got to address making sure that students that we have are getting the adequate instruction. Then to your question on the 29, this is a request that we have made a number of times, and when you look at the background we've given you on that one, it is on page C15. about the literacy teachers. We operate this program now in all of our Title I schools. So to move it to where we operate it in all of our elementary schools, you have to continue that or you'll be considered to be supplanting. And so in essence, Title I schools would end up with 2 of these and a non-Title I would have 1. The number of kids is hard to identify because I may be identified as needing the service and go through the program and it takes me 9 weeks. You could be identified and it takes you 4 weeks to go through. Ms. Guthrie might be identified and takes her a week because the teachers work not only in one-on-one situations, but 1-on-3, 1-on-5, and it varies from school to school. So what we track is that we're making improvements with an identified segment of our students and trying to help increase literacy achievement. So I can get you the numbers that we've touched in the past. I just don't recall those off the top of the head.
Yeah, and I guess here's my reason I'm asking that, because right now we currently spend with capital instruction $7,093 per pupil based on last year's numbers or this past year's budget, based on the facts you gave in front. So I'm just curious, how many students do we touch with 1.8125, and then what does that add to our per pupil spending? So I think sometimes people don't, we say that, but the numbers are maybe a little bit skewed if we don't add that in there. I'm just curious what that.
It's a good question. We can give you some, we've got, this is one of the programs while we have advocated to expand it because we have impressive results on the difference it has made in our children's reading scores. So we believe it will do. It's just that the first step in is a big leap because you're having to not supplant funds.
Thank you for answering.
Any other questions on the, yes, Kevin?
More of a comment. I was just looking on page A9 in our book, and I just couldn't help but reflect of what the state average is and where our average is and or where we are today. And if you look at the difference, we're $800 a student below the state average. And most people may not say much. We talk about cost per student. But when I take the 31,555 students that we have, that's over $25 million that we're not getting in our school district that average funded school district would get. And I think that's maybe a better way to kind of let people know the amount of dollars that we are underfunded when you talk about just average. We're just trying to get to average, and we keep chasing that word average, and we can't get there. So information's good. I just thought I would put a comment out there in real dollars what it really is in this county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Collier. Any other comments, discussion? Yes, Ms. Guthrie.
Mr. Chair, I agree with what Mr. Collier just said, and that is why, to me, it is so important that we are visible and strong advocates for community programming, because when we do that, we get a chance to speak to our community, and they are going to be the ones to elect or go to the polls to vote for folk who will have a great impact on whether or not schools are going to get the much-needed funds. So whatever we can do within a community, I would suggest that we do that. That only strengthens us when we can make our program more knowledgeable within the community.
Thank you, Ms. Guthrie. This is an action item. The superintendent's budget is an action item tonight. Okay, I was just reading. I was just want to make sure I wasn't missing something there. Okay.
For information.
I just thought so. I just wanted to double check.
Yes, sir.
All right, the next item, any other comments on the budget or any more questions? Or we'll continue to throw a few more rocks at Mr. Booker and Mr. Hoskins if you would like to. Yes, Ms. Cherry.
In light of our meeting this morning with our legislature, would it be beneficial at all to let them have a notebook as well, just to let them see our numbers?
We can do that if this board would like to. I can make sure that, get Mr. Hoskins takes care of that and make sure that they have a copy of that. Okay?
Mr. Hastings might enjoy that.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is our consent agenda, and that will be an action item. Mr. Collier.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve our consent agenda with items A, recommended personnel, B, budget amendments and budget transfers, and C, proposed board policy revisions.
Thank you, Mr. Collier. Do I have a second? Mr. Upchurch has seconded. Any discussion or thoughts on the consent agenda? Yes.
Just
Mr.
one
Howell.
comment. I appreciate Ms. McGraw and those that worked on the board policy revision that's on that, especially as it pertains to public expression. I think that was an area that was a little gray, and y'all sure made it black and white. And so I appreciate the work on that, appreciate the effort that you brought to the retreat.
Thank you.
And just for the board's information, that has been posted on our website these past weeks for the public to see as well. So.
Thank you. Seeing no other discussion, all in favor? And the consent agenda is unanimous. Mr. Booker, superintendent comments.
Thank you, sir. I have several. First, you have at your spot there in front of you a Hawks Nest STEAM Academy letter. This will be going home this week with students pre-kindergarten through third grade. We hope to have our website up and running before we go to spring break. And any parent interested in having their child attend are encouraged to apply. And they can apply by filling out a paper application or completing the application that will be available online. The deadline to apply is Friday, May the 13th at 5 o'clock. And then the following Friday, we will hold the lottery in the Highland High School auditorium at 4 p.m. So just want to start everyone seeing that. We've been getting a lot of interest and inquiries about that and wanted everyone to know. Yes, sir.
Will that be going out in multiple languages?
That's a great question, Mr. Al. Todd, it is? It has been translated into Spanish. Great. Thank you for thinking of that, Todd. We're only as good as our best people, isn't that right, Mr. Al? So I also want to just remind you all as we return from spring break, we will begin the various awards programs. It's a great highlight of everything. The first one will be the Best and Brightest ceremony on April 13th, which will be at the sponsored by the Gazette and hosted at the Shield Museum. And then later in the month, Business and Community Partners on April 26th, and then May 3rd, our Evening of Excellence, and then the Star Teacher, Star Student Awards on May the 12th, along with numerous other things that we'll do, but I just wanted to make sure you saw those on your calendar. I want to speak on behalf of all our staff and thank you for approving tonight so that you preserve spring break. We should all just pause and thank all of our staff for the hard work that has gone on. When you have the inclement days and you miss days that you're supposed to have, it breaks the rhythm of the calendar, and so they have been doing a lot of strong work, and in being out and visiting our schools, seeing the quality of instruction, it's just impressive, and the effort that has gone on this year. I just appreciate the support that you have given, but to watch them perform is exciting. I hope all employees will get to spend time over spring break. As I shared with you in the Friday letter, we'll do the same operations that we did over the winter break holiday, where the schools at each site will be closed with the central office maintaining office hours. So the big thing is, and our schools know this, and we feel it will be with our principals tomorrow, and they're already thinking about it. When they come back, there's 47 days.
The children know that.
But it's a great thing. We're already in that mode, so we appreciate the support. I will take one last thing and thank everyone for their attendance Friday at Mr. Haller's retirement. It would be remiss if we didn't say that this is his last official board meeting. And so I think he was recognized with the Longleaf Order of the Pine on Friday, which is a great honor. He was honored, and he really was as much pleased, I believe, Mark, with being an honorary officer of the Gaston County Police Department. He was deputized, given a bullet but no gun. I think we're safe. So I think we should take a moment and recognize him with a standing ovation. Uh, 35 years of service. That's just a lot of great things. And finally, Mr. Chair, I would ask, we had put on here to have consultation with attorney. That is not necessary tonight, but we do still have a personnel item, so I would request a closed session for that.
Mike, before we go into closed session, let's just remind everyone of our next board meeting date.
April the 11th. April the 11th.
That's April
will be our
11th.
next board
Yes.
meeting. 5:30. Yes. Yes, Mr. Collier.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to go into closed session under North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11, paragraph A6 for personnel.
Thank you, Mr. Collier. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Ramsey has second. Any discussion? All in favor? It is unanimous. We're going into closed session. Back in open session, seeing no other business, I'd like to recognize Mr. Collier.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Ms. Guthrie has seconded that motion. Any discussion? All in favor? It is unanimous. We're adjourned.